Hey, if you've been listening to the news in the US, you've heard about the Green New Deal, a multi-trillion-dollar plan to redo the energy infrastructure of the US. And part of that plan calls for upgrading every business building in the US to be more energy efficient. Now, in this episode of IoT Playbook, I interview Taylor Clark, who explains how he is already saving building owners an average of 40% of their energy savings using smart building technologies. Now, Taylor Clark is the founder of Alternegy, an enterprise level IoT managed service company that architects and manages enterprise class IoT projects for cities, enterprise customers, agribusiness, and more. Now, in this episode, Taylor reveals the two key drivers for smart building success and how you can jump into the smart building opportunity, one of the fastest growing opportunities in IoT managed services today. And Taylor reveals his clever method for winning business away from the biggest players in the industry, stealing business from companies 100 times his size. So just head on over to podcast.iotplaybook.com and search for episode 9, where we reveal the secrets of the 7-figure IoT MSPs and how you can copy those in your own business today. Let's say smart building, which more of the private sector now. Describe one of those kind of situations, like what problems are they facing? Who's the decision maker there on a building that may have multiple different tenants and things.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at a building, you're typically going to be talking to the facility manager. They may or may not be the guys that are making the final decision, but they are going to be the ones that know that building in and out. And you go through two things. One, what do the bosses want? And two, what do you want? So when I meet with the facility manager, we may have a goal of they want to reduce something or replace something that's broken. We start looking around and say, okay, well, what else is really a problem here? Well, maybe the elevators are breaking down 15 times a day, or this is shorting out over here, or they can't get the security cameras working. So typically, I'll ask them what's going on, and they're going to tell you where the holes are. And like I said, I always go in and try and plug the holes. So as I sit down with the facility manager, we'll get what we need to do, what they want to do, find out who the decision maker is. Hopefully, if you're dealing with the building, then you're moving up the ladder to the property manager. And if you can get to the property managers, those I felt are always the best ones to go to. You're not going to the owner of the building is not going to work on it. And the tenants inside that building, they're not really excited about doing anything or having any construction in their building, even if it's going to give them something. You go to the property management company and show them unique ways. There are ways to do energy improvements and increase CAM and have it paid that way. If people are familiar with PACE, it is a wonderful way of paying for building upgrades and doing it off the books. And you can go in and really do anything at all that's going to show some type of payback. So if you get in, talk with the facility manager, try and find out what his pain points are, sell to, hopefully, again, the property manager, and then they will meet you. Then you work your way up to a portfolio manager. The portfolio manager has multiple properties under their belt, and they just push you to several different property managers. So depending on your way out, if you're walking into a building, go to the facility manager. If you're going to a trade show or you're looking for a target person, talk to a property manager, because they're the ones that are going to be able to find out what the owner is looking for, what is in the budget for that year, et cetera.
And so approaching a building like that, like what's an ideal building scenario that you would see if you met a property managers and they describe their buildings? What are type of ideal buildings that have opportunities?
So, you can pretty much go into any avenue you want. This is such a broad area, but the primary focuses are the most common ones that we run into. Obviously, LED lighting is just the forefront. It was there first before anything. It has, 30 to 40% reduction in power consumption for the entire building is possible if they're still using older equipment. So, you're obviously going to talk about lighting. Then you're going to start getting into a control system. Then once you start getting into a control system, you really want to embed that control system. So you want to move into what's managing the building and or security. So being able to manage the building and getting into, say, the air conditioning unit or the heating units, et cetera, those are that's a lot of money in those, and it may be 5 to 10 years until they go or chiller. But if you're in the middle of managing it and you know when it's going to go, then you can be in the middle of that replacement, or you may be able to do it yourself as soon as you get in there. But so we try and do the building management system, and then security is something that we want to get into on a camera level. Typically, we'll go in there and we'll integrate card access, key fobs, daytime control systems, opening doors, and try and upgrade it into adding on, say, a facial recognition program that gets people going in and out of the building. So we have a couple companies that are doing this on a very small scale, just because, again, the employees of these buildings know they're doing it and they've agreed to it and didn't cause a stir up. They actually spent a month talking to everybody beforehand to make sure that it would be okay. And really all it's doing is just security cameras. But if they come in, it knows who they are. So it's able to lock the doors. If they get in after hours, it lets them know. If a vendor shows up that's not the right vendor, it lets them know. If there's somebody that's been fired or there's any type of issue and they know that this person should be stopped before they get in, it will alert security prior to that effect. So there's a lot you can do once you get in there, but once you get into that particular software, it's really hard for people to pull that out, and you make a residual commission per camera, and you just start to grow it from there. So those are the areas that we typically start off in and get to. Water is the last subject that seems to be there, but it will be the new power in a few years. But it's the last part we hit.
So video management, which seems to be the eye of AI, right? It's the turning it from just static images or to actually recognizing what it's seeing. What do you see? So with AI, that is the main thing, facial recognition that you're going after?
So I'd say event recognition. So facial and event recognition is really where it's at. A lot of airports are using it. Orlando's had the back and forth, and we've had some stuff that we've been doing with some other ones. But we've got it down to where now we can manage. Let's give you an example of the TSA. So if there's too many people that are getting in line for the number of TSA agents, the system can recognize that and let them know. One, it can tell you the exact wait time because it's watching everybody as it's going through, so they have a more relevant and accurate wait time. Whereas before, they were just giving somebody a card and saying, hand this to the guy when you get up there, or they were picking somebody that was very noticeable, like Big Pink Hat, and then they were just hit a timer and waiting for Big Pink Hat to make it to the gate. That's how most places are doing it. Now they're getting into this type of system that manages that, then also manages whether or not that TSA agent is there if they need to add more. If somebody bypasses the TSA agent, it can pick up on that. If somebody's left a bag somewhere for too long, it picks that up. If people start to shove each other or make some aggressive motions towards each other, lunging, it's going to pick that up. If smoke or fire pick up, it's going to pick that up. It can do gunshot detection. It can do behavioral recognition. So you can use it for either sale purposes, whether or not somebody is having buying signals, if you're stressing them out, if they're becoming disinterested, if a kid in the classroom is being bullied. If somebody crosses a line and they're not supposed to cross that barrier, if there's no teachers present, if there's crowds that are just all of a sudden gathering for no reason, all of this are triggers that you can program in there, and then you can do whatever you want with them. So we'll go back to the shopping center. They wanted us to figure out if somebody was going in and, say, shoplifting or breaking into cars. So if somebody would get out of their car, it would tie that person to their car. If they started walking to other cars, it immediately notified security, hey, look at this video frame. This is not normal. If somebody walks out, goes to their car, drops something off, and goes back into the center, then that was a red flag to them that person may be shoplifting. We had a bus station where if they had an issue for fires or anything else, the system automatically can change the LED signs. It has priority routes, and it can tell by the way that people are leaving. So if a fire is on one end, it automatically on the speaker can say, please look at the LED screens and follow the routes, and it'll start guiding everybody to the appropriate and the fastest way out. If that starts to get bottlenecked, it could literally reroute them a different way. So you take all of these events and then you start running them into your IoT platform, which is just your if this, then that statements. And that's when you start to create the full brain power of it. So event recognition is the first step of automatically figuring out what needs to happen on a very large scale. What cars are going by, how many people are going in there. You talk about doing all of these different types of sensors, people putting RFID chips on their Bluetooth. They're just, there's a myriad of different ways to track things with all of these different signals, but really the camera can do most of it. And then it goes back and it's the model of how do you react to that and what do you want your IoT platform to do at that point?
So, and then you mentioned, so you got the event recognition and now facial recognition. Mm-hmm. So I know that one's more controversial, especially in cities who may have even lit it up, but don't want to tell the citizens just yet because they're kind of, that freaks people out. But are there areas where you've done it where, like you mentioned, buildings where they've said, either because of requirements, legal requirements, or otherwise, they've said, okay, hey, we need to recognize, here's the staff. So now the camera recognizes anybody who's not staff, or what are those scenarios for facial recognition where it's been implemented?
So really schools and buildings, you can't get into the municipality or discussion. They just won't let you. But there's a couple charter schools that are testing this out. A lot of them in the New Jersey area. They've gotten a lot of grants up there. So not just it's something that we feel pretty strongly on, but a lot of other companies as well. So the biggest hit right now are the school systems. And that's where people are saying, look, these are my kids. I want them to see who's there, and I want to know who's going in that building. So in there, you're seeing the fastest growth. It will get to the buildings, I believe, just because of ease of automation. And it really comes down to where is that data being stored and how is it being transmitted? Because you're already on security feed. People can go there. It's just a matter of them searching and finding you. And if you're on a public property or private property, but you're not your home, there's really nothing against finding that. It's not that somebody has your name tied to a face in the public domain. It's a matter of your face triggered an event, and now the system knows to follow you. So in the public world, it's not tying it to a name. And if you do it in that method, people shouldn't be worried because you can't go just say, find Bobby Sue, and it pulls her up. It more is saying this person just did something it shouldn't do. Now, when you go to a school or a building, then you're trying to say, these are the exact people that are coming in. These are the parents that are attached to the student. So if somebody else is coming in with this child or leaving with this child, we need to know immediately. If this is not the same vendor that always delivers the school lunches every day, we need to know. And furthermore, if this was a student that was ejected for violent tendencies, we need to know before it gets up there. So charter schools and private schools are the first ones that are really adopting this. New Jersey and Texas have got a lot of them up.
Okay. So what about AI in terms of agribusiness, cannabis, that kind of thing?
So we've got a light right now. It's currently being studied up in McGill University. It's almost complete. And this light is really none other than, it grows plants and specifically marijuana better than the sun. And it does a lot of it through AI technology where it's able to identify the stage the plant is at. It's able to identify whether or not any type of fungus or bacteria or mold is growing and kick on the particular type of UV segments that need to be there to not turn on the UV flashes if a human is present. To detect erratic growth patterns, whether or not the plants are growing in a pattern. And I don't want to get into too much of that, but we've got some specific things that we're doing with this grow system where our plants grow in different patterns and we expect them to do specific patterns to capture the most. And if they're not doing that, then it lets us know. So in the grow business, it's about managing the plant, watching the plant, making sure that you're getting the most out of it. And with this, again, particular light that I'm not going to sit here and try and promote it all day, but it is able to use several different effects, including a superimicin effect, which is able to increase the THC content to the maximum amount. A lot of people say, oh, well, you can get to X percentage with this light of this process. It's all within the genetics of the plant, but this allows the plant to reach full potential in those genetics by being able to trick it and learning right when it hits the stage when it needs to go to sleep. The system is able to determine that and then trick it so it gets a extra hour to an hour and a half of light during the flowering cycle. So that takes our time frame down 25%. If you get into the fields and outdoor grows, et cetera, then that's really just having, event recognition on to the plants to make sure that you start seeing if people are going in there, if the crops are starting to fail or fall down, if they've been hit. And then you get into soil. So then you start recognizing whether or not you've got the right type of soil going on. If you get it, obviously the testing as well as the air. And then you may have some type of optimal setting that you want to have hit. And that's where your IoT platform is going to start pumping in more CO2 or pulling it out. It's going to send a signal out that says, listen, the moisture level inside of this plant box is not right. But all of those sensors that are there to grow it, you can then either make it a trigger to send a notification. And if you're able to take it a step further, you can usually have some type of device that will automatically fix the problem for you. You have to get to that stage. But, right now, when you talk about really trying to grow a lot of marijuana and or even hemp and CBD nowadays, it's got to be in a very large scale. It's got to be used something that has some type of AI platform to do racking systems and move them over, because the days of your mom and pop grower are going away. The industrial guys are moving in, and it's getting into a very large platform. So as that increases, so does the competition, and so does what you have to do. So an IoT platform that can manage it will soon become more necessary than just ideal.
What about facial recognition in that cannabis space?
So absolutely, but that just kind of depends on the security levels if they wanted to have it there. Everybody's very private. If you know some growers, you probably don't know the truth about where their farm is at. They may say it's over here and it's on the other side of town, and a lot of people are very secretive of it, even if it is in a completely legal area. So they would typically want to know if anybody is in certain areas. We'll put up independent boxes that are powered by solar and wind, and those cameras are connected via cell or point to point, depending on where they're at. But they will start to display and broadcast if anything is out there, and that is really any animal as well. So if something's going to go there and start feeding on it, if they're going to get deer in there, anything like that, as well as, again, facial recognition, people coming in and taking a look at it. But it's almost take your Ring doorbell, somebody gets to your door, you know about it immediately, you can react quickly. Same thing with that. We put two-way transmitters in the box. Depending on the internet connectivity out there, it may be a live stream audio, or it may be a pre-recorded speaker message that is going to come out saying, hey, we've got you on camera, you need to get out of here, we're heading out, and we'll be there in 5 minutes or something like that. So that's typically how that's how we've seen it used. And then you could use the security systems as well, getting inside of the larger grow shops that are indoor, but that's just something else.
Like a smart greenhouse or something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So for pricing and packaging, since you're doing it as a service, are you then bringing in, is there like a third-party finance arms that you're bringing in to kind of fund? Okay.
Yeah, and we're not the bank, and we don't make a lot of the equipment. We're just the solution architect. We pull them in, and then we've got a great banking partner who knows how to get a very unique situation approved through a lot of different banks in a competitive way. So we've been lucky.
Is that Lloyd's of London connect? Are they providing the insurance on the deal, or are they providing the banking, or both? Or
they're providing the insurance. Basically, I had a guy that I worked with a long time ago. He actually had an LED lighting factory company so he was making his own bulbs for the longest time until he realized that it was just, it was too difficult to try and make it in that market. So he started working on other areas, but he had some of the best banking contacts that I'd seen. So I brought an as a service model to him, and he's got a few different banks that are willing to write the contracts up that way. So every single contract is a little bit unique, but the process is still the same. And again, we've just been lucky to have it. But Lloyd's of London is the insurer that we would bring into the deal. They're one of a few, but typically the main backing insurance company that we would use. And we're currently using them for crop insurance right now, or at least getting there with crop insurance.
Crop insurance. Okay. Huh. Right. Because that would take you through the whole supply chain then from the crop to what the end seed to sale, I guess.
Absolutely.
Jack, do you have anything? I have some other questions I'd like to ask, but do you have anything here about what we've talked about so far?
I mean, I always go back to what's the impact on a new partner trying to enter this space. And you, I think when we talked earlier, kind of LED was kind of the transition point for you because they were looking for lighting to help with those, the grow buildings. If you have a partner out there who's wanting to get into this, any thoughts on their best way to do it? Should they go out and try to find the platforms and the AI and all of that? Or is that something that you work with partners to help with? Or do you have some advice on how they should kind of approach that?
Absolutely. So I don't want to tell anybody on to how to do their business model. There's a lot of different ways, and it depends on what you want to do. So if you're out there and you want to be in a particular part of the space, we chose the entire space. You put me in front of anybody for 10, 15 minutes and I'll pull an area of opportunity out of them. I don't have to go in with a preconceived, this is what we're going to sell. But if what you have is really, this is your box and you want to implement this box and you're looking for a way to get that in, then I would find a partner that has the ability, if your system doesn't already provide an ROI, then find something that can tag into it. So if we'll go back to the telecom days of the world and we wanted to get our phone line sold, what do? We partnered up with a lot of guys that sold hardware. So these hardware guys would want to go in and do a lease purchase agreement on the phone system and then say that would cost them $400 a month. We would come in and we would save the client $600 a month just in telecom spend. So for $200 more back in their pocket, they were able to have a fancier phone system, more features, maybe more call time, depending on what it was at that point, and all for a net gain. And so they're winning, we're winning, and together it was a great combo. So we had energy savings, utility savings, lighting. That was our main goal. If you're able to go in and reduce cost and operational cost and prove that, and so say you have an IoT program that's going to go in, and I believe you and I talked a while ago about something that just monitors your devices. And it's just one particular platform and dashboard that goes in and does that. You can justify the costs that they're at and what this cost is, then that's your entry. It's a point of how do you bring value and savings to pay for it? Because everybody's only going to jump into something for efficiencies and gains. That's the entire purpose of it. So what are those? How are they measurable? If you don't have it and what you're bringing is just something that's of good value, but it's a CapEx and you're trying to figure out a way to do it, then yeah, you need to find somebody, a type of partner that can go in and do that. We're a company that can do it, but we do it on a very boutique basis just because it's such a broad scope. And you can spend 6 months and a lot of money talking to somebody about it that's not going to go anywhere. So we try and pick and choose on what's going out there, and we highly suggest everybody else does, depending on the stage that you're at. But lighting is an easy entree to provide savings to any building that's out there. If they haven't converted, and still a lot of buildings have not, and you can partner up with somebody that does lighting, and then you can do an IoT platform that controls that. Usually lighting is going to be in the budget. You find things that are in there that are going to be out. So if they've got servers that have to be reworked, if they have HVAC controls or HVAC systems, every 10 years, there's something that has to be redone in that. But if they have something that has to be repurchased on a yearly or biannually or quarterly, like I said, 5 or 10 years for certain things, go after those and find out how can you get savings with improved stuff. HVACs are just huge ticket items. You're not going to see a lot of savings, but you can start tying in a lot of things to it because of that. So definitely find a partner that has the right type of platform, or find a platform if you're going to develop it your own that is very simple, but you want to find something that takes in as many different types of signaling opportunities as possible, because you will run into areas where you just can't get the information to the platform because there's no cell signal where you're at, or you don't have a Wi-Fi connection, or you need something else, or there's, you've got to do a LoRaWAN. I mean, there's a lot of different things you have to take in. So as long as the platform can take that, and you have somebody that can develop it, or you can develop it yourself, then you've got a good starting point. But I would always recommend finding a partner, maybe finding a company that already has a boxed solution out there. So if your vertical is talking to school systems and you want to do this particular package with school systems, and there are boxed programs out there, and then you can start growing from that boxed program.
So let me ask you a question. You kind of started with the LED lighting in a grow house. Do you also support like a farm, a wide open farm with cameras with a larger reach and control of the environment with water levels and moisture and things like that?
So that is something that we're getting into. A part of another world of what we're doing at the same time is hemp growth and CBD from seed to shelf. So we're working with a lot of different companies from the extraction side to the farmers, et cetera. With the farmers that we are discussing, it's part of a, provide insurance, provide a guarantee, and get a very low buy rate. But at the same time, you have to be able to watch over what's happening. So simple cameras out there to monitor that are being utilized. It's going to take us probably 2 to 3 growth cycles before we start getting any data that we can really use. As great as Microsoft is, there's not a lot of that growing, but it also depends on each strain. So as we go a strain, we'll be able to tell how it's growing, if there's an issue there. And the camera will start being able to send that information back. So we are there, but it's going to take a few years of growth cycles per strain to really capture that data.
Okay, so here's another switch. Have you done anything with medical clients?
So we have done a few things with some hospitals and some nursing homes.
And can you describe what some of those things might be?
So we had a senior center that we were working on, and a lot of it was really just wearables and how do they provide the residents with freedom, but still monitor them and react quickly. Nobody likes wearing those big necklaces, push the button if you fall, et cetera. So we moved to a lot of different areas. The wristbands that are able to monitor pulse rates, where they go, if they fall, if they fall out of bed, if they have actually before a heart attack, I guess they're able to detect that, but it's not 100%. But these little bracelets, as well as certain things they put inside there, including some basically a pad that's underneath the mattress, it can monitor how they sleep. And also warn them if they start to have any types of seizures, et cetera, that's there. So we started putting in those types of systems in there to help whatever it was to help the patients. Then we started working our way into, again, utilities. So there is a UVC treatment you can put inside of the air conditioning units, very cost effective. You ever seen all of the mold and mildew that builds up on those things? It's disgusting, and people power wash them, and power washing does not get down into the center of that. You still have all that bacteria in there. So by putting a couple UVC tubes up there, we kill everything and create a cleaner environment. We've also helped work with one where there was just an app that helped people monitor how their loved ones were doing there. So they were able to see their schedule. They were able to see how they were doing, if they had any issues that were going on, if they saw the doctor. It was also a quick way to alert them of what was going on. And then we were able to integrate that into Facebook so that the senior citizens could post things and get to an easy way to actually enjoy things with their grandkids, because everybody was on Twitter and Facebook and they didn't know how to use it. So we were able to integrate an easy app where they just hit a button and they were able to push a quick selfie picture or something else that went out to them.
Okay. And then you mentioned a hospital.
Yeah, the hospital is really the building management system. So that's where we were pulling out a large control system. And that, again, was in air conditioning and LED lighting and trying to make that a lot more succinct. They have a waste management system that we're looking to implement, and that's an extremely expensive route. But with what they're looking at with lawsuits and fines, because a lot of hospitals, believe it or not, are really just transporting hazardous waste around in these strolling containers that they shouldn't be doing, and getting them from one side of the hospital to the other side of the hospital and down the elevator, et cetera, is quite costly, and the people they have to manage it. And there's also issues with them not doing it properly. So we are looking at actually waste chutes and installing those, and they're all subdivided out by what type of waste is going in and where it's going to come out, and what can be recycled and what can't. And then doing basically a flow vac system. So that's one of our more unique projects that we're currently in the process of trying to get them to get approved, but they want it, and it's been halfway designed. So that's an exciting thing we're looking to do.
So I think just for me, wrapping it up, like, okay, so you're going in a lot of areas that were traditionally serviced by what I call the OT guys, operational technology. You're coming in with this IT kind of connected all. Single pane of glass management systems, and then even the new as a service and kind of a model that's popular with managed service providers. So do IT guys that we're speaking to have an advantage over the OT guys in terms of seeing this IoT opportunity?
Absolutely, because everything went around full circle for me. It was crazy. I did telecom, started in telecom in '98, and then I got out of it around around 2009, and went into lighting, which was energy reduction, and then into everything else, and then into building controls, and then all of that comes back into telecom and connectivity, and that's really the main part of it. So if you're understanding what the architectural look is going to be, that's what people don't have right now, and that's where people try and put something in a box, but you can't take that box to a real world environment, expect it to work. It'll work maybe 2 out of 10 times if you're lucky. So the person that could come in that understands what the client needs and how to properly design that solution, how to source the right either partners or hardware or software that's going to make this work, that's what businesses are looking for. So absolutely 100%, the IT guys understand what the backbone is. They understand, okay, if I can make this happen and it's going to come in here and that piece, that's the architectural design of it. And that's why I think we took off so quickly and were able to come up with the right solutions for our clients, because we could see that whole picture. So absolutely.
And so where do you go as you're architecting something out? Now you've obviously found a bunch of solutions. So you've got solutions you can go to, but, as you're building out your solutions that to solve problems, where do you go?
Starting off, you're going to want to go with whoever's partnered with your platform. So The platform's the number one deal. And that's what you have to figure out beforehand if you're getting in the IoT space. Just doing hardware to software is not going to work. But once you find an IoT platform, they usually always have some type of marketplace or group setting where you can interface with other clients that are either looking to maybe partner with you on developing code, or they're looking to lease or sell off what they currently have, or just bill by the hour for what you need. So there usually is an entire ecosystem within those platforms, and I would start there. Once you do that and you start to get a good understanding of what's out there and the basics and capabilities, then I would start actually going to these conventions wherever you can get to them. There's a lot of them going on around the country and the world. But when you get there, you start meeting with people that live and breathe this, and you see some of the stuff that just doesn't really make it into magazines yet because it's so brand new, or it's just crazy and people don't know how to really react to it at the moment. But that's what I would do.
So in your particular case, given that Azure is one of your platforms, you kind of look for that Azure marketplace to kind of find some IoT solutions.
Yeah. So, in the beginning, we were a ThingWorx partner. And again, ThingWorx was a great company, and they have a wonderful ecosystem to work with, and they have developers that'll do a lot for you as well. So, to get going, they were a great start, and they were a premier company. So it wasn't like we were going out and getting a B grade product with good support. We were getting a grade A product with grade A support. We have our own IT staff, and we have a third party company that we work with that really understands what it was. So they were the guys that we had could understand what they were doing and work within that framework. The problem was, again, it was just the AI, and we had some other guys that had already built a lot in the Azure field. So we decided that what we had we could duplicate, and the amount of time that it was going to take us to get to where they were at, it just made more sense for us to move over there on that large co-op that we were doing, as well as just, again, access to that type of AI. The facial recognition and camera systems are really where it's getting at, and AI is 100% hands down where it is the benefit of IoT, excuse me. So if whatever you're doing doesn't get to that point, you're missing the boat on the final goal. And the people that everybody's fighting to get there the fastest, and the quicker you're a part of it, the more you're going to launch yourself in the next level.
Good. And so best place to get started on AI sounds like is, through the cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I say cameras is that you can have so many more sensors inside of one piece of hardware. So a camera can notice a lot more than if you're putting out one sensor that does air quality. A camera's not going to be able to do air quality. A camera's not going to be able to do point-to-point, internet transmission or connectivity, but it can give you a lot more data. You're reusing an existing set that they've got. So as long as they have cameras that are HD, then you can go ahead and plug and play the backbone of it. And then you're making a residual per camera. You've embedded yourself in, and you can grow off from there. So we really like it for that purpose. But again, the clients are going to lead you into to what they want, where their budget is, and what they're going to do. But overall, the biggest bang for your buck for AI and for getting in there is going to be the cameras, because there's a lot more events that you can pull versus a sensor that's going to give you 1 to 4 different points.
And just like the other things, you package it as a service. So your pricing and packaging is, it includes, you're not saying hardware this and this, you're saying, okay, I'm giving you an X year contract to manage these cameras, including all this stuff, and here's the monthly price. Or
Absolutely. Okay. So the cameras, they can go up to $75 to $100 a piece. If you start owning that, then obviously you can start to understand where that money comes in. You get 5,000 cameras out there. Say you're billing them at $50 to $75, and it really only costs you $5 a camera. That's a nice chunk of change that's in there, and that's something that's going to hold you into that client. So it's not for everybody, but for the people that have the ability to, that is a heck of a residual and a really good hook to hold on to that client.
And the more that camera does, i.e., you go from putting in the camera and seeing the image to now managing that camera to now working with the data and facial recognition and event recognition, all that stuff. Every time you bump up that level of service that the camera does, the price per camera goes up.
Absolutely. It just depends on how you want to do it. With some as a service models, you just say, look, we have development a lot of times goes in based on a new client, and that new client is paying for most of that development. So you can put in there, we're just going to roll in new technology as it upgrades with you for free. And if you're developing the software yourself and working on it, then you can. If you're reselling somebody else's platform, it's a different story. But we found that, when you do as a service and I say I'm going to charge you this, I'm already building that out and my cost is expensed through the project that it's being built for. So we typically roll that in, and that also helps, close the deal. It's a very competitive industry. There's only a few companies out there that are doing it on a very national scope. And they're not, they can be beaten. So you're not going up against Goliath, but you're going in against guys that are very focused and understand that this is a huge growth opportunity for the country, and it will catch on fast, and it's all about who's done the most and who is the best for references.
Okay, well, Jack, you got any questions? Any last minute deal?
Yeah, I think Taylor, you have an impressive roadway that you have been through here, from telecom to LED lighting to artificial intelligence, all the way through into agriculture and cannabis. What a wide variety of things. And for me, that's kind of the exciting part of it. Having been in telecom, it just seemed boring to sell circuits and phones. But I love the opportunity as you're taking it to go out and solve problems, recognize where their pain is, and you've got so many things in your basket that you really have an opportunity to address just about everyone out there with one of your solutions. So I appreciate you sharing the story. I think you got something really really impressive here that you shared with us today.
Absolutely. I definitely appreciate you guys having me on and taking the time. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. So I don't know, is there any way that you'd want to offer someone to get a hold of you or might hear this?
Yeah, absolutely. If they have a project or they want to partner up, we'll be more than happy to take a look at it and talk it out. We are a little, again, picky with what we handle, but we're more than happy to have a conversation and maybe guide somebody in the right direction if it's not us. You feel free to email me directly, and my email address is tclark, TCLARK, at alternegy.solutions. There's no .com. So that's tclark at ALTERNEGY.solutions with an S. And that'll come to me, and I'll be more than happy to return them as quickly as possible and see what we can do.
Okay, great. Well, I'll make sure to include all that in the show notes and stuff. Again, Taylor, I'm so appreciative of your time and kind of give us an overview of all the different things that you're working on, and definitely want to keep checking in with you from time to time because you got so many exciting projects that you're working on.
Anytime. More than happy to do it, Mark.
Great.